Hey everybody, we're going to start here looking at the political spectrum, this being the idea of where you fit in the big line of politics here in the United States. So to start off here, what is the political spectrum? And you've probably seen this on the front wall of our classroom, just left-hand side of the smart board of big lines of the political spectrum. And essentially, it's just a tool to visually show where you fit in terms of political position based off what you believe. And so it's kind of this axis we have to decide, hey, where do you fit in terms of the normal idea of politics here in the United States? And that's kind of one of the ways we look in terms of that idea of spectrum. So in the U.S., we usually use this on a big horizontal line. Okay, we have what we call center, left, and right. And so you hear a lot of people describe politics as being either left or right. You're a left winger. You're a right winger. That's where the whole term comes in terms of left and right ideas of politics. And so we're looking to see now what that actually means. Most commonly, okay, the idea of being left or right wing depends on two things, right? Two things only. Well, not only two things, but mostly two things. One is how much change is a person willing to allow in government, okay? How much are people like, hey, you know what? This needs to change and why, okay? And also how fast that change should take place. Should it be a very gradual change or should it be a super rapid change that takes place overnight? And that's kind of where part of the whole thing comes in. The other part here is how much should the government get involved in the lives of people, especially the economy? So how much should the government regulate what people do? That could be everything from, how much does government regulate minimum wage to welfare powers, to welfare, those kind of welfare programs, to public schooling. All that kind of stuff plays a role in this, okay? And so the question here is how much should government get involved and say what you have to do, okay? The idea of public schooling could be one of those topics, right? Do you have to go to school or not? The idea of do we provide welfare people or not? Do we have a minimum wage or not? Do we have a certain working hour time that you get overtime after? All those kind of things play a role in that, especially comes to the economy in terms of how much the government gets involved in the economy. How much do they get involved in messing with interest rates or loans or those kind of things? That plays a big role there too, okay? Here are general assumptions, okay? So, left and right. Left means typically the government gets involved more in people's lives. So the government is going to do more things to impact the lives of people, okay? Also, they want either a gradual or a rapid change in government. They want to change how the government looks to improve it or to make it better in their own view at least, okay? That's what's going to happen there. If you're on the right, you want less government intervention. You want more people's decisions made up to them, okay? Made up for them and nothing else, okay? So basically how you can make, if you make a decision, that's your problem. The government's not going to deal with it kind of deal. For a business, you don't have to have a certain price. You don't have to have a certain wage. That is your decision that you make versus the government making that decision for you, okay? That plays a role in. Also, they don't want to change government much. They think, okay, the way it is, even the way it was, is better than what it could be. And so we're going to have little to no change here in the status quo. We're going to try and leave things just the way they are. So that's the basic idea of left and right, okay? Left being more government intervention, more change, faster change. Right being less government intervention, little to no change in how that government actually looks. Now we start throwing the words liberal and conservative out here. Typically, if you're more left, that means liberal. Right is more conservative. Okay, that's kind of how it works out. And so liberal here, we have a couple things here. One, more liberal views consider that the government is supposed to help remove social problems. And what kind of things could social problems be? Social problems could be things like poverty, starving people, gay rights, women's rights, all those kind of things, social problems we're talking about here. And it's the government's job to fix those problems. So if people are poor, the government's job is to help them out, okay, or at least to help them get back on their feet so they can move forward, okay? The idea here is government is really good, okay? They like government. Government is an okay thing because government is going to help people out and help make the country better. The idea of change is good. Change for the better is a good thing. For them, inequality is bad for liberal. You want to see people equal. You want to see this big gap between wealth. You want to see the big gap between people, that kind of stuff. Or, that's kind of how it works there. The other part here is conservative, okay? On the other side of that, the right side, conservative side, more traditional power institutions, okay? The power of personal freedom in opposition to change. So if you make a decision, that's your fault, okay? you shouldn't have to have the government help you out with this. Okay, you want to go to college, that's your choice, you do it. Government shouldn't have to help you out in this one. Okay, if you made a bad decision and you're poor now, guess what? That's your problem. Okay, the government's decision, and they're okay with that. Okay, the idea of traditional institutions kind of go that way. And I'm being a little simplistic in my answers here, just so you get a general understanding. Okay. Personal freedom, you make your own decisions, okay? Nobody's got to tell you what you can or can't do. There's certain things that you have rights to do, and that's where we have to go in terms of being a conservative. They really don't want the current order of things change. Kind of keep things the way they are, okay? If some people are rich, that's good because they did their job and they learned how to become rich, and that's where it comes into, okay? For a conservative, the individual is good, okay? The idea of the individual, your personal rights, those kind of things are really, really important. Government shouldn't have to get involved in stuff, okay? That's where it comes down to. Change is bad. Freedom of choice is good, okay? Do you want health insurance or not want health insurance? There you go. Here they're saying that's not good, okay? Over here on the liberal side, everyone needs health insurance, everyone needs health care. Over here is the idea of, hey, you can have it if you don't want to have it. Your call, okay? Freedom of choice is a good thing. Now, quick recap. Left. People who support change, society, government intervention. The right, traditional values, want less government intervention. Traditional values, again, can be things like religious values. That can definitely be a part of that whole right-hand side thing where they're traditional Christian values. Your spectrum, okay? We drag a spectrum out, and you're going to see this up on the front wall as well. To the left, we have more liberal side, right, more conservative. The further you get left and right, we can change those terms. So you're being a radical or a reactionary person. If you're right dead set in the middle, you're a moderate. We'll talk about each of these in depth, okay? So first off, radicals on the far, far left, okay? They're calling, if you're a radical, you're calling for wide, sweeping, rapid change of the political, social, economic system. Best current candidate, Bernie Sanders, okay? Just to pick on Bernie, and nothing wrong with Bernie if you like him. I'm just saying his example of, things like free college education, that kind of stuff. Those would be very huge, big changes that would definitely be more towards the radical left-hand side, okay? And some radicals, okay, even want to have really extreme methods. I'm talking like, violence revolution. I'm not saying Bernie's doing that, okay? Don't take words out of context here. But, they're willing to resort to extreme methods to bring about that change sometimes. You're more liberal is that saying, the government should be more actively involved in promoting welfare of citizens. So a good example of this might be Obamacare, okay? The idea of Obamacare, everyone gets health care, everyone gets health insurance. That way you can all take care of health needs if you need it. Peaceful, gradual change within the existing system. They don't want to do a violent change, okay? And not saying all radicals are violence, by the way, but still, they're talking, want to make change, just, not as much change, okay? Moderates are right in the middle. They have both viewpoints. They see both liberal and conservative viewpoints. We're going to do a lot of quizzes, a lot of activities, figure out exactly where you stand, okay? Typically, moderates are very tolerant of other people's views. Like, okay, I see that. Okay, I see that. Whatever it is, okay? They don't hold very extreme views. So a lot of times we kind of this, go slow, wait and see. We're going to see how things look kind of approach to what a moderate does. At the same time, as you go to the right side, we have conservatives, okay? You can see where they are on the spectrum here, conservatives. They kind of want to keep things the way they are, or maybe the way they used to be, okay? The status quo of what things were. Typically, a conservative is going to be really hesitant about making the government bigger, adding more programs, adding more people to government. They kind of feel like, less government, the better off we're going to be because government kind of gets involved and kind of screws stuff up and makes things worse for people and raises taxes, raises bills, all those kind of things. So they really don't want to see a lot of government activism going on. They kind of want to just let people do what they got to do. Now you have reactionary. Now, reactionary people are a little different here, okay? The far, far right, and they really want to go back to see the quote-unquote good old days. They want to do things the way they were before, okay? And a good example of reactionary might be a person like Benito Mussolini in Italy, okay, or even Adolf Hitler in Germany, okay, who wanted to use extreme methods like, violence, that kind of stuff to get their power and their goals, to do what they want to do, to kind of bring things back the way they were before, redo our greatness, that kind of stuff, okay? And so that's where our reactionary is going to be. So obviously we have our spectrum. We'll talk about political parties. We'll do another video on political parties next week, okay? But political parties are very loosely formed around these ideologies. Be one of our last slides here as well. Typically, Democrats are more liberal. Democrats will support more government regulation of the economy and even more government regulation of social stuff. They're willing to raise taxes to pay for things if need be. They're willing to get involved in things like minimum wage, that kind of stuff. They're willing to get involved in that. Republicans are typically more conservative. Okay, they say, okay, we want to make the government a little bit smaller, give people more their own decision. Okay, they don't want to see government getting involved in things like healthcare, health insurance, that kind of stuff. They kind of want to stay out of that line. More specifically, okay, you can even break down bigger. When you guys declare your party in a week and a half here or so, okay, you can be all over the place, all right? You can be very, very liberal Democrats who are very, very far off on the far left-hand side. You can be very moderate Democrats who are in the middle or close to the middle. You have very moderate Republicans who are close to the middle, very conservative Republicans who are very, very far off to the right-hand side. And when you declare your party in class, you're going to have to say, I'm a liberal Democrat, or I'm a moderate Democrat, or I'm a moderate independent, that kind of thing. So here's some big issues we kind of see here. I'm just going to do this bring off, and you're going to see on your notes. There's a whole page of this on your notes as well. But kind of see some of the left and right issues that we have here. So one of the big left issues, pro-gun control. Maybe you see less guns on the street to stop shootings, that kind of stuff. You have the idea of pro-choice or more as abortion kind of thing, allowing abortion, censorship. You shouldn't be able to say what you want to say about the government and those kind of things. Not so much like swearing, cursing kind of censorship, more about like how you can voice your opinion, that kind of thing. Prison reform. That prisons are there to rehabilitate and help people become better people versus just punish people. Privacy. They don't want to have to worry about, people, what you do on the internet is your stuff. What you do in your own home is your own thing, okay? And for your education, making sure that everyone gets an equal kind of education for everybody, that's all equal and fair and that kind of stuff. On the flip side, the right-hand side, more Republican issues, anti-gun control. Second Amendment, big deal, okay? And that people have that very strict interpretation of the Second Amendment where you say, okay, it says right to bear arms, you have a right to bear arms. Typically kind of going with that old style of things, the older moral beliefs is pro-life, about abortion, that abortion should not be an option. Anti-flag burning, so no more for censoring in terms of how that could be a form of censorship in terms of how you express your opinions about the government, that kind of thing. They're more for punishing prisons, okay, longer sentences, that kind of stuff. Prayer in schools. Kind of more, the church plays a little more role in the Republican Party, and they're more for prayer happening in schools, that moral kind of idea. Also, school vouchers, so that you can go to a private school if you want to and have the government pay for it. That way, it's it could be a really high class, rich education, but the government's still paying for it versus what you get otherwise. And you can look on here. I'm gonna post this online for you can see the breakdown of things like distribution of wealth. We'll look at some of these things in class too: the economy, business regulation, social problems, taxation. We're going to look at these more in detail in class. We're going to post online as well, and you have some of these things in your notes already. But I'm going to leave you guys off for that to class. This is due on Thursday. Thanks, everybody.